Hello everyone, it is Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 for Mondays. It's been 1 week since the last one, and what's happened? Yeah, things are carrying on, and things are happening, and sometimes people don't know which way to go. So I'll say, go the way that makes you more balanced, or working in your, as I've said before, your now, what's your circle of control. And that's the best way to do it, being aware but not getting too excited about what else is happening out there, as where you do actions and stuff like that, and but continue to focus on that. Definitely there is, oh, how can I say it? So much information now. There's so much information out there on probably more topics than you can ever imagine. Is it a rabbit hole anymore? I don't think it's a rabbit hole anymore. It's probably a black hole for some of these things. It's just enormous, and who knows where you'll end up at the end of it. Some of the things are quite graphic, I have to tell you, and I just choose not to look at a lot of it, which I can, but I choose not to, because once you see a visual, it's even worse if you're there and it happens to you and you use more senses. But once you see the visual, it's hard to get out of your mind. And this is no different than the watching of the movies, which is television programming. Once you kind of watch these movies, even though they are fictional, in some cases they may not be, they may be documentaries showing you things you would never see unless you actually watch the documentaries. So it's really time to, right now, kind of, how would I say, be grounded more and more, and to help your, to help what's in your visual, what's in your circle of control, let's say, what's coming at you. That's a good place to be most of the time. But I'm going to talk about a few things today. Part of the thing around balance is the something completely new. The something completely new is the Schumann Resonance. If you have great awareness of it, awesome. I just want to go through it. Maybe it's a reminder, but to also remind us and how it can really be helpful. I'm going to put a link down below that's actually, it's like a 9-hour Schumann Resonance music kind of playing, not really music, but sound in the background you can play. So use it as you wish and not. But let's talk about the Schumann Resonance again. It might be a reminder, it might be something completely new. And in a sense, you can watch how this changed. So what is it exactly? What is this Schumann Resonance all about? Well, as the name is, Schumann, he somewhat discovered I think it wasn't right off the top. It was really something that they kind of discovered but don't really know what they have. And then other people come into play, and another particular doctor, it doesn't say it in here, that's why I'm speaking it, came into play and was able to determine the hertz, I guess you could say it's electromagnetic energy, and so this, he discovered that of the brain, was a certain number, and similar fine to what Schumann had come up with. And then they approached him, and it was more concrete. But the idea is, the Schumann Resonance is nicknamed the heartbeat of Mother Earth. All right, so this is the grounding, but you're going to find a couple of things interesting. And they can occur in bands which match up with the ranges seen in our brain waves. Alpha brain wave, that's when you're in creativity, that's when you're thinking that way. There is so really the space and how they came up with it is in the atmospheric cavity between the actual Earth and the ionosphere. So that space. So every second, about 1,000 lightning flashes around the globe harmonize these pulses, which travel around in that pocket, sending electromagnetic energy signals to all microorganisms. So we're organisms, nature. So these signals couple us to the Earth's magnetic field and are also thought to be inversely influenced by the mass emotions and some of human consciousness. So there's kind of a connection in how things can shift around and change within that. But this is where it's important to be out in nature and to be outside. One of the experiments that they did a long time ago was to be in the earth in some sort of a compound that they made, which would not allow that space, up between the earth level ground there and the ionosphere, so beneath the earth, where they did not get that 7.83 hertz. And then they just started immediately not feeling well. Then he was able to bring in and give them, I'll call it, I don't know if it's artificial, but we're able to tap them into 7.83 hertz. And even if they were under the earth, they actually felt better. And this was the positive thing. So they were able to kind of see it in cells and things like that, where there is that nature. It's just nature at the end of the day. So there's more here, and but the extremely low frequency waves of the Earth's magnetic field overlap with our brain waves. But there's gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. So gamma is the inside expanded consciousness. Not everybody is familiar with gamma, but I did this breathing exercise with somebody in nature. That's an awesome place to do your breathing, to do your meditation, and again to have connected with Mother Earth, and that's inside expanded consciousness. And that's a place when I know for me, and everybody might be different in what they kind of experience, but it definitely feels like my third eye is activated in that space. Beta is where you're concentrating and learning, and then alpha is where you're relaxation and reflection. So that's it's that space that feels really good. It's relaxing. And then theta is when you're dreaming. This is where you're dreaming, right? And then there's delta, which is the deep healing sleep. So those are the brain waves. But it's very interesting. I thought you might be very interested in that. But again, it gets back to nature. Whether you remember 7.83 hertz or not, it's being in nature, being outside in nature, and more connected to nature and the earth, barefoot, all these things that can become very, very helpful. And yeah, very exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, heartbeat of Mother Earth, it sounds really exciting. So I will send or I'll post down below the link to this so you can just review it with your own eyes, and there's a little bit more there. And also the 100% pure Schumann Resonance for grounding, stability, and meditation. But it's I know for me now, more and more, I can't have anything on. Okay, so maybe the heater's on, but I really can't have a lot of sound. It'd have to be low. I will turn it low and see, but instantly when I turn it on, I feel it. I feel the energy of it when I turn on the Schumann Resonance. So that's what I wanted to definitely go into as something completely new, but it's a reminder because it's very balancing. And it doesn't matter if it's winter and being outside or whatever the temperature is, if you're dressed for it, it's being outside, it's being in nature. And that light that's on our eyes, very helpful. And I hear we produce vitamin D that way too, having our eyes exposed to the lovely light outside, which is so much easier on your eyes to be reading out there. But that's the thing about screens. You can't really see the screens that well in the light outdoors. So we're always indoors, and that would be somewhat of a strain on our eyes. But there you go. So let's see what else. more and more we're going to see things kind of unfold in the way they are. Some people will say, well, it's meant to happen, as in you learn more about the different sides. Now, be it there are different sides, particularly to the Ukraine-Russia scenario that's happening, and you can see how that would be absolutely causing division. It's just taking the position to be aware of it and not losing ourselves into that and being helpful for humanity. But I wanted to mention a couple things, and the first thing I'm going to mention is there's a history, as there is, and more of a recent history to do with Ukraine specifically. And maybe this is a good time, as the eyeballs, and many eyeballs are on Ukraine, to actually understand the deeper issues that are there. And I don't really believe the EU or the NATO or any of these players or the US can actually really help in a way that I don't think they're on the up and up. So, but as a country with the number of people there and that culture that's been there, that land, we can imagine it being all that it can be in the light, in good and kind, compassion, everything, thriving, thriving versus surviving. But that doesn't seem to be so even just putting Russia over to the side, here's a country where even their own government has, because of the different parties that have been in there, I won't go into the names of them, but there's different parties there. So these different political parties, these I don't know, fractions, organizations, whatever you all kind of join, have caused a lot of craziness. Again, it could be one person, it could be a particular earlier, like this has been a historical group, where they have caused a lot of harm to the good people there. And if you have watched enough videos now, you'll know what I'm talking about. But the one particular thing, I'm going to put the link down below, is in, not that I'm saying Wikipedia is correct and not that we have to throw ourselves into it, but what if this country has a lot of problems as it is, NATO over one side, Russia over on the other side, but the country itself, for the influence that has come in from outside of its country, U.S. Definitely by far is a key player in there, but that would definitely have to do with the other key influential people, perhaps, and organizations. And that, I'm not sure if that's a healthy thing in the long run, but it's about sex trafficking. So in essence, we're hearing more and more about this coming up. Let me see if I can actually find it, and maybe it's not on here, but the idea is there is that. I'll put it up. It's under Wikipedia, and it's probably not here. But it's crazy to think that this is actually stuff that is happening in our wonderful world. Sometimes you just want to not even, we don't see it, so we don't want to be a part of it. But it's clear that children go missing, and it's clear. I'm going to see if I can find it. Here it is here. Yes, so there's a lot about around it, but at times it's crazy that this is even written in Wikipedia, believe it or not. But I want to read a little bit of it because, in essence, it's the awareness, and the awareness can move us into a space even more of compassion and action-oriented. And I think of the good people that, again, involved in this, not just in Ukraine, but involved in this particular scenario is, it's not just them that need to focus on. There's not really any country that probably has not been involved. But listen to this. Ukraine is a source, a transit and destination country for men, women, and children trafficked transnationally for the purposes of commercial sexual exploitation and forced labor. This is a thing. And I've heard about this from before, where people have moved into countries like Greece, and then they're working and they can't get out, and much money, and they know paperwork or whatever. Crazy. This is over the years. So Ukrainian women are trafficked to Russia, Poland, Turkey, China, Czech Republic, the United Arab Emirates, Austria, Italy, Portugal, Germany, Greece, Israel, Spain, Lebanon, Hungary, Cyprus, Slovak Republic, United Kingdom, Netherlands, Serbia, Argentina, Norway, Iran, Bahrain, and United States. So the majority of Ukrainian labor trafficking victims were men exploited in Russia and Czech Republic and Poland, primarily forced to work as construction laborers, sailors, and factory and agricultural workers. Again, they're probably trying to get out of their country. They're probably not happy with maybe family relationship, or they're going to make money, promise probably some lies exploiting as it is. And there are indications Ukraine is a destination for people from neighboring countries, so trafficked for forced labor and sexual exploitation. In addition, trafficking occurs within Ukraine. Men and women are trafficked within the country for the purposes of labor exploitation in the agricultural and service sectors, commercial sexual exploitation, and forced begging. I mean, we're thinking prostitution here. We're thinking, labor, slave labor. Ukrainian children are trafficked both internally and transnationally for commercial sexual exploitation, forced begging, and involuntary servitude in the agricultural industry. I mean, they probably don't have, they're probably not given any money. They're probably just given a shelter, and it's probably, excuse my language, piss poor, and they're probably given enough food to eat, and maybe don't even know where they are, and they're probably under guard as well, that kind of thing. So an IOM survey released in December 2006 concluded that since 1991, approximately 117,000 Ukrainians had been forced into exploitative situations in Europe, the Middle East, Russia. In 2008, the government of Ukraine did not fully comply with the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking. So there you go. We're talking about a government that already is not complying with what I call a very key, crazy, human situation here. So do we know much about the government in the sense that's been there for a while? Sounds like in going into history, there's much to be said for how it's like who gets into power, changes, and is that good for all Ukrainians? Probably not. Probably not. And while there was little evidence of efforts to curb trafficking, complicity of government officials, and of concrete steps to protect and assist trafficking victims at the national level, local governments made some progress on victim assistance, whatever that is. The government also made modest but tangible progress in improving the punishment of convicted traffickers, prosecuting labor traffickers, training judiciary, and carrying out prevention activities. So U.S. State Departments placed the country in Tier 2 for whatever reason they're on there. But anyway, so just so that you know, and if at any one point in time, I think there was another article that I got here, which was a good thing, where it's 47 Canadians charged in sweeping global child sex abuse investigations. This is the Star right here in Toronto. So I have read numerous articles over the last couple of years, but several years, where they were police officers, they were teachers. So these are people that you would deem as protecting the people, and they're involved in it. So it's almost like no surprise that using our gut more and more, and not being fear about it, but it's the safety, it's the safety part. So let's go back into, see if there's anything else here. Yeah, it seems like over the, I guess probably from last week, I get the emails from the school system, the Toronto District School Board, and you get other emails that say that people who have already got this has a, I'm just going to say it simply, compromised immune system. Very, very clear in the paperwork that's coming out, truth or not, that it's because of the experiment of it, the newness of it, or perhaps the plannedness of it, it's actually going to cause people possibly down the road, maybe for some, maybe not for others, an issue with any other things that they're going to be subjected to in the future and be vulnerable to. So there's a few solutions here. This is where I want to jump in for anybody of any age, and that is to eat well, to sleep well, to move well, and take care of yourself more than ever, not out of fear, but out of the way to. So whether you've got this or not, it's always a good time to be able to step into taking care of your health, and there's nobody else is responsible for you but you. So this is a really, really, really good time to actually step into. Now, there's probably a gazillion different protocols you can do. You can't do everything that exists out there. Said this is the healthiest thing to do here, do this, do that. You can't do them all at once. So there's going to be a simple, easy routine that you can step into over time to improve. And that's one of the programs I'm doing now with helping with being a part of a program that somebody else created, the Creatrix program, is that over these 6 months is to take people through, because it's called, or at least my piece is called, Let's Get Physical. So all the things around the physical health is what I'm going to be talking about, with just absolutely the mention to the brain. But the brain is physical in and of itself, and so all of that's going to be helpful for, it's all connection, right? It's all connected, the mind. Everything's connected. So that's the piece there. But every piece plays a role. If you only get an hour's sleep every night, what does it matter what you eat? What does it matter? Or that you go out for an hour or two walk and you do the movement. If you don't get some sleep, there is a thing out there in the published research. You will go insane without any sleep. And that's the simple. So you could look at every aspect, the moving, the physical part, which is actually going to bring me to, if you remember this 10-pound book here. So remind me, I got it. Oh, it's like really heavy. So I just opened up a page, and it just so happens to, and believe it or not, this book is only, I think, 1,500 pages, but the pages are thick. It's an old book. It's over 100 years old. And just for people who have not seen this beautiful book, it's Health and Longevity, fully illustrated, 15 books, 1 volume by 20 specialists. And this book, I got it at a doctor's house. They were doing a house sale, and it was in his library. That's where I beeline for when I think of these house sales, is the library. So some of these books are prices I only was able to find in the medical libraries. I think it was Philadelphia and maybe it was Australia, this book that they had there to take out. So I feel very fortunate. I'd really like to take a whole week and read through it, but I find this to be more in line with our nature than where we have come to with using medications as the protocol. So I want to get into the physical. Now don't mind me, because as much as you can see light here, the light is very, very poor for reading. So I'm just gonna put these cheap reading glasses on here. So this part here, this is about physical exercise, when I was saying moving well. And I found this interesting because this was something new for me, so I want to share it with you. This is the influence of exercise on digestion, and part of that is exercise and the nerves. So I want to read this little part for you, because when we think of exercise, we tend to feel really good, and I think this is somewhat tied to that. And some people, if they have had a rough day, and for whatever feelings, emotions they have, if they go out for a good run, it helps release it. But this ties a little bit more as to the association with the physical body. So let me read it to you. Nervousness, so this is exercise and the nerves. Nervousness is very common among those who do not daily subject their muscles to a sufficient amount of exercise. Okay, nervousness. They get headache, face ache, which I thought was interesting, pains in the back, neuralgia, dyspepsia from heart palpitation, noises and changes of temperature, grow irritable, lack energy, and perseverance. It is known that a nerve left in prolonged inactivity degenerates, becomes relaxed and feeble, hence a necessity for such exercise as will make it demand nutrition and grow strong. So this is exercising the nervous system, is the movement of any sort. It could be, like me, I'm doing my handstands again, or shoulder stands because of the piece of equipment I have. But this activity that we need to, as much as the people that are in bed, like the elderly. I mean, think about how people waste away when they're just lying there, and this would be a good thing. Now, the other thing I wanted to read in here is, so it seems like it's everything. I mean, appreciation of exercise, exercise in mind, willpower, increase in lung capacity, lung function, evils of too little exercise. The gradual increasing failure of muscular power observed when neglect of proper exercise is persistent is the result of microscopic changes in the structure of muscles involved, during which some of the materials of construction disappear and are substituted by powerless and inert fat. This change of texture weakens the muscular fibers, so that any sudden strain upon them might cause them to tear across. Such an accident, if it affected the heart, would prove suddenly fatal. So nature, outside, movement, you just bring it all together. Bring it all together. But that's the thing I want to talk about now. The evils of over-exercise. And this is the third section I wanted to read here. Because this is very important. Over-exercise and not coming into things gradually can absolutely damage the body. And the thing about that is, it's no different than prevention. You know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can prevent, that by far is the way to go. So let me just read this last little piece. Evils of overexercise. Systemic exercise implies that no muscle or organ should be overtaxed or exhausted. So not even just the spurts or your exercise class or any of that. It's also for those of us, and I'm guilty of this, is getting exhausted, like doing a lot of exercise because we can and we have the energy to do so. So I'm being mindful that in these last few years is not to exhaust my body, to take the breaks, to do it casually, more calm. Yeah. An exhausted muscle has its nutrition seriously impaired, and it may take days to overcome the effect of 24 hours of overwork. Excessive exertion in walking, running, or leaping, I thought that was very cute, leaping, is liable to bring on enlargement of the veins of the legs, and sometimes to produce hernia or rupture, especially in those with an hereditary tendency thereto. that's where I'm going to leave it with this. But just to bring in the idea of a physical, it is important to know the under and the over, and it's that just right, just like the three bears. It's that just right, the in-between space that is the healthiest for us. So it's that balance. But to understand it is important. I did want to bring the nerves up because there's a saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And this is important to understand, that the whole body benefits from the activity that you do. It could be even activity as a person that I know, and we're talking, she does massage, and what does she call it? Because I said, she goes, well, what do you do? You know, the strength that I see, like, what do? You do a lot of yoga? No, I do you know, house cleaning, I do shoveling, I do gardening, and work with plants and plant trees and foraging, climbing trees. So that's what she called the free gym. You know, the free gym. So I want to go out and get plants for my, and mushrooms for my dinner anyway, so I might as well, that's my activity. Why go to a gym? I'll just go out there and do that for, you know, 2 to 3 hours. And plants. So when people say, I don't have enough energy to do the things around the house, well, that's your gym. That's your gym. I don't put gyms out of business, but that's your gym. You know, some will put a little music on or do that, and you kind of feel good when you get these things done. So anyway, put that over there in case I want to copy anything out of there. So the last thing that I want to speak about before we go into some puns and jokes, and I'm not sure if any put any comments down, but is actually the who is Harry Beckhough. Who's Harry Beckhough? Well, he's an ex-British code breaker, and he was around in Germany as Hitler was coming into power. So I found, it's an old video that somebody sent me, and he talks about that experience, which I thought was very interesting. But he goes on to speak about the things that he's very familiar with the EU, and I thought that was even interesting as well. And he remembers he was going to school at a place, can't remember the name of it, but it was down in the Black Forest, and he remembers when when very early on, one of the things that happened was the books, they were being piled up and being burned. So he remembers that. He's even, I don't know how old this video is that somebody brought up, but he remembers that. He remembers the smashing of many windows, kind of came thereafter, so it's probably a bit of unrest, a bit of anger coming up. But he talks about the German and a little bit of the history, because he wrote books, and so he dove right into it, being an academic, and then his participation in the war. He also met people that didn't know his participation and was able to glean a bit of information that way. But I believe he's written a handful of books, and it's been very helpful to read them. I took a bit of notes here, so I might just see what I can put there. But as he says, there were tribes, you know, way back when, and they were from that area, and it was the Romans that forced them to be Catholic, and they considered them very like strong warriors, you know, that kind of thing, and so they were seen to be a force, you know, a force back then, and that's why the Romans thought they would do that, but they never stopped wanting to be the force, from what I can gather, and to wanting to rule and take over countries, and feeling like they are. I remember in Sapiens, the book Sapiens, it talked about the Germans and talked about particular people, so not just, I want to do a broad stroke here, of being part of the superior race. This was a thing. So that was interesting. and there. So at the end of the day, he's created a whole story in this video, which you'll probably get out of it. But what kind of happened is these particular people who had an agenda or wanted to, they were seen after the wars as being, wanting to rule the world. So they weren't seen as a very, they had kind of like a strike against them in some ways, and they eventually got to join the EU after 10 years. Got in there somehow. They kind of made it look like they were good, passionate, and ready and wanting to partake in that, but they were still very aggressive, but just underneath, and they started to come back out after that. But what happened was, yes, so right after that, there was a number of people that kind of left Germany after the wars, and they went on to do things outside, and then they came back. So the cabinet, so one of the things was the Nazis, as they say it, the politics. They had at some point when they're part of the EU, they actually, and in the politics, there was 150 Nazis came back to Germany and were in their cabinet. So it sounds like, as anything, with the competitive nature people can have and take on, that it's like you can't get it out of your head. You know that to be true for other things. Can't get out of their head. So there was Britain joined the EU, and then it's like a whole story. You're probably better just to read it, to watch it yourself as he talks about it. But that there was a number of Germans and people that came over to the U.S., medical scientists, those kind of things, and people as well. And there was money that came from the U.S. to fund the wars, as you've heard before, fund on both sides. We've heard, I think there was a book called The Wars Funded by Both Sides, Wall Street. Wall Street funds both sides of the war. Absolutely, there's certain particular people that are of the wealth that are giving the money there. But at times he says that Germany never disarmed. So part of the EU and part of, after the wars was that everybody would disarm. But Germany did not. They did sign the agreement, but what they did, as people can do, you find loopholes. And so they did disarm in Germany, but what they did is they went to Russia, made an agreement, whoever was there at the time, and I think this is after the First World War. So they were there to train their army, as in the German army, and people and arms and stuff like that. And as well as the agreement, they said something about training theirs as well. So that was so U.S. and Europe. But yeah, so part of what they wanted by having Germany as part of the EU is actually to create a super state within Germany and actually have the U.S. come about. So what we have in this world, lots going on, is a number of clubs, and these clubs are the people that are put into the powerful positions. And these clubs come in so many different colors and forms and different names, but at the end of the day, you are part of one or maybe more, and you are put into positions of power, and you then have, the say, the narrative, as they call it, to do there. So, and they then start to take over more corporations, they start accumulating more wealth, they own the banks, and all that kind of stuff. But he does go back, way back in history, to a Jesuit priest. And as he says here, what tends to happen when action kind of comes into play and a change comes into play is when you're dissatisfied with what you're being exposed to, or dissatisfied. If you're in a club and you do not like what it's all about, you may leave, and maybe there's a group of you that leaves, and then you go create your own club. I mean, this has clearly happened in religion, where we have all these different religions. They didn't much care for how this religion, and maybe they just want to make their own for the reasons they did, or they didn't like something over there. So this break off, this Jesuit priest decided he was going to worship the devil. worship the devil. And so different clubs came out of that. And when you have a club, what happens is you try to get the influential people to be part of that club. And so this whole club mentality, and once it gets going, and you talk to several people, and people want to be part of the club, so you've got all these levels of people coming in and joining to feel part of the club and to do what they want to. The thing is, it reminds me of military, which I've heard, whereas if you're in the military, you have to do what your superior officer tells you. You cannot say no. You just can't. It will mean something you're probably not going to like, and that's probably either kicked out or let go, whatever, or destroyed in some cases if you know too much information. It reminds me when I was in acting, and I had a person that I was supposed to call. I'm trying to think of his name. It's been a while, but the name that they have. So I would call in, and from time to time, his name was John, and I would call in from time to time and see what was going on. That was part of something I should do, is to call in and touch base. And the other thing was, if I got a call to go for an audition, you don't say no. The first time you say no is the time where you could be taken right out of the book. Seriously. I mean, I never did it, but this is what I was advised, and that's the way. So you create this, they know they can count on you, and when they call you up, you're going to say yes. And I mean, they may have even sent out the books to people to look over, to choose people. So can you imagine if they looked over and they had 3 people, 3 candidates, and I get a call from John, and he says, well, here's the audition, blah, 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 and you say no? Ugh. How do you explain that to the person that you know? It's that kind of business where you don't. Military probably the same way. And these other clubs and groups, once you are going against the grain, speaking out against what they want to happen, the narrative, then that kind of happens. So what happens is some of this actually gets into organizations that we know it, institutions that we know it, and rules are starting to make up, regulations. And now they can put it so that, well, if you do that, then it's almost like a form of slavery in a sense. You deprive people of their rights. Sometimes they don't even know it. And you're just brought to, well, I better do it. There was something I wrote here about rules. Yes, this was an experiment. Let me see if there's something else here I wanted to bring in. Okay, so now I'm going to get to a part that has existed, and I knew people whose mother was in it. I know somebody whose family's in it, and this is the experiment on the mind. This is moving towards, this is the scientists of the times, is to control people, but in a backdoor way, so that you're not really aware of it. It's not the war, it's not the aggressiveness, it's the other part of it. However, some people joined, and again, they joined volunteer. Have you heard that before? You see the notices, come, we need, we're doing this experiment, you'll get modest amount, or when I hear for the universities, they get a large sum, which helps pay for their university, and you go into these experiments. But rules. He talks about the rules, and that it ties people in knots, because at some point you don't know, am I supposed to do that? Am I not supposed to do that? What do I know? Which way do I go? This is the whole thing about the Constitution and the Charter of Rights. Now, so many people don't know how the system works, what they can do, their rights and things. And then it gets into, he mentioned political correctness, and then you start to absolutely, you just question. But again, you don't want to question. I mean, how many people have had to hear, there's no question, but nobody wants to question because they don't want to be ostracized depending on the question, right? Can I go to the bathroom? Sure. That's probably the simple, easy, straightforward, not in your face kind of question. But this is people, they're confused. They don't know what's right from wrong, that kind of thing. So they move their minds of the people in directions they want to, so that you're not thinking for yourself. You're not making the judgment calls anymore. We know this to be true in medical and many other things. So but it's a very interesting, I think it was 45 minutes, where you have where all of this and more. But he does, again, it's the people power. So the solutions to this is, yes, you can change the people who are in power at some point to have the successors buying into what the change needs to be, but not to rely on that, because this is where the clubs and groups have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, in a strong way, but definitely hundreds. And so it's really about, as he says, in the time he says this, I think the video is definitely decades old, is about people coming together. Maybe it's another, an organization or something, and standing strong and growing those groups. So obviously what's kind of happening, and I'm hearing, is that egos can get in the way, and that's not always ideal with I've known spiritual groups where that's happened, and read about it, and I've heard, very holistic groups too as well. It happens. It just happens. And I'm not going to say it's our nature. It isn't. But there's just so much distraction, so much going on. It's almost like you feel like you have to be competitive. So the idea is is the good people, and to everybody to make a decision to be part of something, and that can be that movement. And they should not be afraid. So this is what a clear thing that I think was the lady in the video. She said the people, or he or the lady, people should not be afraid of their governments. They should not be afraid of their governments. If there is something that people do not agree with, and it's a very harmful and inhumane and stuff, then of course that's where you come together, and even not just within countries, but within the world. So I think that's it's good. It's where now not going to be bullied anymore. There's definitely much going on out there, especially when it comes to the rules. I'll be the first to say all my life rules have not made sense, and I've usually gotten information to say that it goes against what they say you should do, like the seatbelt thing. And strangely enough, having talked about that here at Live at 5 about seatbelts, I was speaking to a family member, and yeah, we're so like and like. It's so crazy. It's my father's cousin, but she mentioned about how harmed she got, and she's known other people that were wearing their seatbelts in a car accident. Harmed, seriously harmed. Now I've read, and you can go on it too, or go at one of my lives where I talk about seatbelts, and the links there, where even the own government websites, no different than the government websites that are saying how many people are harmed by this, right? How many people are harmed. So definitely what I'll leave you with is, you take care of you, and more important right now is to deal with your circle, your circle of control, your circle of influence, primarily for yourself. And that means all that, the health, stepping into more of a healthy routine, bringing the steps, whatever it is. If you need help with that, I'm here to help. And then to realize that's going to be good for what this has done for the body, or anything else. So the strength in numbers regarding people against, wanting and being pro what, the freedoms that we already have really anyway, but we're just being made believe that we don't have them. And then the health. So we think of health, and all of that kind of is packaged up. So I want to make sure that I get that across, because solutions and what you can do about it seems to be, well, it just seems like that's kind of how you want to wrap things up. It's kind of where you know, finish off things that way. Anyway, let's read a couple of jokes and puns here so we can have a smile or two. I haven't read any, so let's just see. This is the pun joke book. It's over 50 years old. Sam. So this is there a doctor in the house? This is the chapter of jokes, puns, and riddles for that. Sam. Hey, Dad. That man wasn't a painless dentist like he advised. Father. Why? Did he hurt you? Sam. No, but he yelled when I bit his thumb just like any other dentist. Sometimes I don't always get these right off the bat. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Mrs. Brill. My son swallowed a pen. Doctor. I'll be there soon, but what are you doing in the meantime? Mrs. Brill. Using a pencil. Mother. Good gracious, Billy, I forgot to shake the bottle before I gave you that medicine. Billy. Don't worry, Mom. I'll just turn a few handsprings. Patient. Doctor, do you think cranberries are healthy? Doctor, well, I've never heard one complain. Doctor, ask the accident victim his name so we can notify his family. The nurse, after consulting the patient. He says his family already knows. There you go. Patient, I feel funny, doctor. What shall I do? Doctor, go on television. Last one. Dan, what are you taking for your cold? Fran, what will you give me? What are you taking for your cold? Oh, Lordy. So I guess she wants to sell it. So there you go. A little bit of jokes and puns. Feel free to post some if you've got your favorites, and I will continue to do so too as well. Again, the main thing here really is to take care of yourself. And in doing so, don't get in between the crossfires, but observe the crossfire and do what you're guided to do, whatever makes you feel good that way. But understand, there seems to be many sides to things here which can take you not down a rabbit hole, but take you into a black hole. And sometimes that can be all time-consuming, energy-consuming, and that's not really in the direction of like healthy things. But I'm here, and what I will also say is I'm starting to do indoor presentations again, so I'm very excited about doing that. We'll post anything here if need be. They won't be until April, but I'm very excited about that, and I think more and more people just do it, get together. I think the Zoom is going to go on, and I mean, it's really helpful for me to do consulting and counseling over Zoom when now we know we can do it. So it's very handy that way. So be creative. I'm going to say be creative in your life, be creative with your relationships, be creative with your business. Just see what creativity means for you. But I think it really will spark up things in our energy and in our world by using creativity more and more, and especially at this time. So do as you will with any of that, any of the information shared here at Live at 5. I'm going to wish you a wonderful evening and a good week. I'll see you next Monday live at 5. Take care. Bye for now, and we'll see you again soon.